For more on this story, I'm joined by Rafael Salies. He is a Latin America expert and independent consultant. Rafael, as we just mentioned, the death toll from these protests has now surpassed 300. Some say that number could be even higher. Have we seen this scale of violence against anti-government protesters before?
In Nicaragua, of course, during the Somoza government, widespread repression was a part of day-to-day life. In the region, we've seen it as well, right? We can remember this in 1968 in Mexico City. We can remember, we can look across the border to Honduras, which has seen similar levels of violence with a smaller death toll, but similar levels of violence in the repression after the widespread robbery of the most recent election in that country. So around the region, it's fairly normal to see this type of repression. Historically, it's been present all over. We can talk about the dictatorships in the Southern Cone. So we can talk about Venezuela right now in the past year. So yeah, the level of violence is present. The death toll is what's standing out right now.
And Rafael, the Organization of American States has created a working group to try to find a peaceful solution to this. How effective do you think that can actually be?
Very little. The issue in Nicaragua right now is an issue of when Daniel Ortega is going to step down, and will his wife follow him, right? The Vice President, Rosario Murillo. And the Organization of American States is not going to be capable of negotiating that. The type of pressure that it's able to inflict and to impose is diplomatic. It's about isolating the Ortega government from the region, but that type of isolation isn't really helpful in negotiating Ortega leaving. It's similar to sanctions. Sanctions are an instrument of forcing Ortega to stop the repression and to leave power. But at the same time, if you institute too many sanctions on Ortega and his inner circle, that only reinforces the need for him to stay in power and guarantee his future. So in that sense, internal negotiations between the powers to be in Nicaragua right now, the student movement, the church, the business community, and the Ortega inner circle are probably where we're going to find a solution.
And you mentioned President Ortega. He's been in power, as you know, since 2007. He's vowed to stay in office until the end of his term in 2022. Do you think he'll survive politically?
After his term, no. He will not survive politically after this term. It's questionable to see if he's actually going to serve till the end of his term, if he's going to stay on after that, or if he's going to leave before, especially with the type of violence we've been seeing later. More recently, so it's hard to actually say when is the violence going to end, and two, is he actually going to step down in 2021, right? If the violence escalates to a point where he has to step down beforehand, it's a real possibility, especially if the opposition gets tired of taking most of the battering and decides to shoot back, which is a possibility. Nicaragua has a high concentration of firearms throughout its population. But past 2021, he knows that it's very unlikely for either him or his wife to be elected in fair and free elections. So it remains to be seen if he actually is stepping down. And in the case that if his wife is elected in 2021 for a new term, is he really stepping down, right? These are plenty of questions that can be asked.
Rafael, joining us from Rio de Janeiro, thank you so much.